Good morning. It would help if I think it might help if I bring the microphone over to this side. Okay, we're a high budget production facility here, folks. Nothing but the best. Okay, it's still kind of quiet, huh? What is up? Let's check my sound levels. Oh, you know what? I'll bet you I hit a button. There we go. Hold up. I clean my desk, which I do once every 3 years, whether it needs it or not. And I suspect that I bumped my audio. Okay, testing, testing, check. 1, 2, 3, good morning. That should be good. We're at minus 6 dB. Okay, cool. Thank you, audio assistants. Audio assistants from TED. Okay, good morning. It has been a very wild week, very busy, and I've been trying to keep up with it. So let's get started. And this is week 185. Wow, October 17th, 2025. I think I blinked and the week went by. Not sure what happened. Cheers. This is my usual passenger coffee as an espresso. Buenos dias, actually, buenas tardes, buenas noches, Christian Lens. And it looks like the messages are coming through with different, it's like YouTube usernames with an at. So that's interesting. That seems to be a change somewhere. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. Well, send a comment. We already have a crowd of 2 or 3 people in the comments. So come on in before all the seats fill up. Limited capacity here in this auditorium. And send a question or comment on X, YouTube, or Twitch. And I was at Dollar Tree last night. My daughter says, Dad, you need a Wi-Fi angel. And I was like, what? So I am now protected by my Wi-Fi angel. I'm protected against internet outages. So please make sure to pick yours up. Limited edition, very powerful device. And so I think I'm going to get some for El Salvador because they need it. Internet is kind of sketchy sometimes. So with that divine protection, welcome, Jeffrey. Everyone, come on in. And the weekend, El fin de semana, I got back to woodworking, which I have not done in a long time. And the challenge du jour is some very simple types of shelves for Berlin, El Salvador. And you might think, Steve, that is a strange thing to build in California to take to El Salvador. And I would normally agree with you, but as I mentioned, sometimes being in Berlin is like being on Mars. And if you do not bring very specific things with you, your chance of finding something decent or equivalent is very difficult. So this is an attempt to have some type of simple shelves in the bathrooms and, as you'll see later, in the kitchen. We looked around. There are things you could buy, but is just a half a step up from cardboard for $30 or $40, and then you got to drill holes in the wall. It's just a mess, and they're not very good. So it's like, hey, I've got a few $1,000s of woodworking tools in my garage that are collecting dust. Let me resurrect them. Let me go to Home Depot, buy $30 worth of wood, and make all of this stuff. I'll flat pack it, put it in my luggage, take it to El Salvador with a bottle of glue. We'll glue it up. Bob's your uncle, as they say. So I put this together in SketchUp. It took me, 5 minutes. Fortunately, I'm pretty good at SketchUp for these basic types of things. And so we got roughly 40 centimeters wide, 53 centimeters tall. And I did this in millimeters because my equipment supports it, and that's what they use in El Salvador. So I headed over to Home Depot and I bought some select pine planks there, 3.5-inch pine planks. I chopped it up and I busted out the Festool Domino, which is my treat to myself several years ago for doing this woodworking stuff. If you're familiar with the Domino, it is not an inexpensive device, but it's quite good at what it does. You can use biscuits, you can use dowels, but they're kind of like the poor man's domino. Domino is like the froofy, Rolls Royce of wood joinery. So I did a dry test fit here. And yes, Ted says, don't forget your clamps. Yes, I did realize that. And we'll either have to buy clamps there or I'm just going to, we'll buy some ratchet straps and use those instead because the ratchet straps can double for tying things down on a car. Pretty handy in El Salvador, especially when Tanya and I arrive with a bunch of luggage. So, yes, it seems that YouTube is the place to be for the chat. So head on over to YouTube. You can comment on X, but you don't really see the feedback quite as well. So there's my dry fit and there's my Domino. These are called tenons if you're not familiar with them. The Domino is like a super fancy plunge router, and it creates these holes in the wood, and those little wood slats you insert, those little biscuits, are called tenons in Domino Festool land. And that just means they're 8 times more expensive than any other wood joinery method. And so what's really nice about the Domino is you get absolutely dialed in perfect millimeter precision fit if you don't screw up. And I literally had to stare at this thing for 2 minutes to figure out how to use it because it had been several years. Once I figured it out, I did several test runs. I did all the Domino holes, did my dry fit, and then I set it up for a lacquer spray. So I use blue tape to cover all my joinery points and Domino tenons so that we got good glue adhesion. And I did multiple coats of semi-gloss lacquer. And it's drying right now. That was last weekend, so it should be good. So that was my first test run. So I'm going to do one more of these for the second bathroom at the office in Berlin, El Salvador. And I am also going to do 1 or 2 of these as essentially the same as a spice rack in the kitchen because we inherited a lot of stuff from a friend who moved. And we have a lot of stuff in the kitchen. We're trying to organize it. And as the team in Berlin knows, I like things organized and neat and tidy. So we're going to try this. Rather than buying more cabinets, we're going to try something like this, put it on, get a couple of these in the kitchen, clean things up, get it nice and organized. So that'll be my first spice rack, as it were. So super simple, super easy, and this will be just vastly higher quality than any, store-bought pressed cardboard MDF that we can buy in the store. So that was my weekend. And weekly projects, proyectos semanales, say no to projects. I don't think I have a slide on here, but we'll see. I think maybe Monday. So say no to projects. If you have never said no to a project in your consulting organization, ISV, whatever, I think you're getting yourself into trouble of various forms, whether it's customer dissatisfaction, increased risk, not happy employees, not happy customers, lawsuit risk. You're really not doing yourself a favor. So I recommend making sure that no is an option in your repertoire, because if you never say no to a project, you are absolutely accepting projects you probably shouldn't be, in my humble opinion. Project management, we're moving forward with that, getting Fatima in. I'll mention more of why I recommend saying no, but Fatima is coming online with project management. She is conducting our afternoon Berlin team calls. Every day we have an afternoon call, and She is conducting those for now in Espanol as she studies the PMI, PMP training and certification. And so she's doing a great job. She is getting status updates from the team and learning the lingo, building her vocabulary in Spanish and English on the project management side, on the BC side, and that is going well. BC file import, we apparently have a series of these for a partner for several customers, and a little more on that hopefully later. Ronald is continuing his journey to learn McCorma SuperCheck and Overflow Remittance, and part of that is learning McCorma's product, and much more of that is learning the entire process in BC from vendor invoice, whether that's a vendor journal. I can never remember the names in BC, like a vendor journal, and then assembling the payment journal, and then printing the check, checking remittance, seeing how it prints. So he's learning that entire process. He's having to do it 95 times over and over and over, which is exactly the point. So he learns everything from A to Z. He runs into every problem imaginable. And his goal is to demo that seamlessly and answer all the questions from Tanya and Alyssa. They are our internal customers, and his job is to demo this ISV solution so well that they want to sell it to our customers. So that is our internal model. We have Ronald, who learns the ISV and basically has to sell it to our internal customers so that they are confident enough that they can sell it to their external customers. And yes, Christian, saying no to projects, you lucky one. Absolutely. Being able to say no to projects is very much a privilege, and it is not something all organizations can afford to do or have the luxury to do. So I am not being flippant or cocky. It is an absolute privilege to be able to say no, and not because like no, I'm being a jerk and I'm not going to work for you. It's no, like no, we are able to say no because this is not a good fit for our organization, and we do not want to accept the massive risk that this project would bring to our company. So, SOD, all the things. Holy bananas. Tanya is on an SOD tear, and she has dragged David along with her. So they are putting SOD to the test and SODing all the fields, all the pages, all the reports, all the transfer fields. It is pretty crazy. Tenant admin dashboard is making great progress. Franklin just did his first PR for the tenant admin dashboard that allows us to manage all of our customer environments without touching partner admin center or BC admin center. And he did his first PR, but then we realized we have all sorts of DevOps issues we're having to fix. So learning all around. And Vibe conference session submissions. I finally got those submitted, so more on that. And I have continued to defer my journey of modern software engineering, which may get deferred at least another week as I go off another side quest. And Monday, taxes done. Why not wait to the last minute? Because why else does the last minute exist? Hello, you must utilize it. So I finally got my taxes done on Monday and submitted and signed. And yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. It's just not fun. It's not fun for me. It's not fun for my tax preparer. And yeah, lots of reasons. I'm going to try to mitigate that problem this year and drag Tanya along with me. Tanya, I know you don't listen to this, so I can say whatever I want. And so Monday, declining a project. Here's the background. We were in talks with a company to try and help them with some commercial software development. They are super busy, like everyone else. And they're like, look, we just need some extra capacity to do these customizations for a specific customer, and they will roll into features in our product. Like, great, love to help. We'll learn something about this in the process. And we got along. It was super tedious because they have a really complex project. We're having to understand it. And I'm like, whoa, this is a big responsibility because we're not just doing a PTE for one customer. We're not just doing an internal app source app for ourselves that we're developing and releasing commercially because we're responsible for that. We can maintain that. We are taking on the responsibility of helping a commercial software firm enhance their products. So we're having to step into thousands and thousands of lines of code that have hundreds of other features. And we're just touching this little piece over here. And they made it very clear, do not break anything else. We wouldn't even know if we were potentially breaking something else, right? We don't know the code. So very stressful. We spent weeks, if not months, developing understanding the requirements, writing up the specs, drafting a statement of work, 10 plus pages. Finally, we get to a point where like, okay, we're kind of cool with what we think the project is. They said we're cool with what your understanding of the project is. I think we're all aligned. Great. And they're like, okay with the budget. And then we get to finally signing the contract. They're like, oh no, we just have these changes to the contract. And I look at those changes and I'm like, okay, we have a problem. The request was unlimited liability on our part for having access to the code, the application, IP, and all of this stuff. So back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, okay, my lesson is we just aren't equipped to subcontract to commercial software application firms. The liability is far too great. What they're asking for is just, we're not a multi-billion-dollar company, despite my global production studio and multinational infrastructure. We are going to have to decline because we're not willing to take on that liability. They insisted that they said, look, here's the liability that we're incurring by trusting you with this code and IP and all this other stuff. What if you go rogue and do something crazy? I'm like, okay, well, okay, after all that months of discussions and requirements and specs and SOW and contract, we just had to decline. So we were able to do that, fortunately, but it was a long, kind of painful learning process. And I actually cleaned up my desk. And I know that may not sound like a big deal to you, but it's a pretty big deal to me. And my daughter walked in my office and said, whoa, your desk is so clean, Dad. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Once every decade, whether it needs it or not. Okay, remembering a PTE. This is kind of an ongoing issue in any partner, ISV, consulting firm, you name it. Question comes across, hey, we did that thing for some customer. What was that and who was it? I have no idea, right? It turns out Tanya asked me, say, we did this API that shows customer payment applications for some customer. We need to do this for another customer? What was it? Who was it? When was it? I'm like, I don't know. We've done dozens and dozens of projects. I don't remember. So I go look and she says, I think it was this customer. I go look in the folders for that customer and I'm like, no, there's no project there. I go to DevOps. I'm like, there's no repo there under that customer name. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, isn't it this customer, that customer? She's like, no, I'm pretty sure it's over here. And so then she says, here it is. I'm like, that's not for this customer. That's something else. And I look at it. She says, oh, it's an API. And I look at the code. I'm like, this is a query object. There's no API there. So we had to unravel this. And it turns out it apparently was a query object that gets installed as a PTE. And Tanya was publishing it through OData to use with Power BI. Come on. And this was in like May of 2024 or something like this. There's no way I can remember this. So I do not know how to catalog this stuff. I cannot remember it. And I see some chats about MCPs and AI, and maybe that's the answer. Maybe we just need to be a little more organized, document this stuff somehow, and have an AI scan our repos, scan our files, scan our SharePoint, our repositories and say, hey, it's probably X, Y, and Z. It's probably not a bad idea. Note to self. So anyway, remembering a PTE. So I had to dig in and find that this thing, it was not called customer XYZ because at the time we said we'll probably need to use this of multiple customers, foreshadowing, right? We called it customer ledger entries dash applied, or it was called that for better or worse. So anyway, we finally found it, finally located the latest version of the PT, which thankfully we are pretty organized on. So she was able to find it immediately and install it in this customer and solver problem. And now we need to transition this from our client organization in DevOps over to our apps organization, rename it a little more clearly, and make sure we catalog it. And then there was a launch of Starship 11, I believe. Holy cow, it looks unreal. Watching that thing lift off is absolutely bonkers. Like, it looks like CGI, like the craziest CGI of any movie you've ever seen. Absolutely unreal. It is true science fiction unfolding there. The Raptor engines, the stage separation, the landing, the absolutely crazy. I didn't catch it live, but I was able to just watch it on replay and absolutely phenomenal. Um, so, oh, okay. So we are starting to get barraged from our pipelines. We're getting the notifications from our next major pipelines that there are all sorts of things being deprecated, obsoleted, and removed in BCV 27. So if you develop PTEs or AppSource apps, if you develop AL, just be on the lookout. Here comes a wave of problems with BC 27. And the one problem we're kind of stumped with at the moment is we're using a field that's on the customer information fact box called average days to pay. And this has been around forever. It's not the greatest, but it's what the customer asked for. And average days to pay is being obsoleted in BC 27. And the warning that you'll get is use procedure, calculate payment stats instead. And this is marked as V27.0. So from 26.5, they have no warning. 27.0, they say this is obsolete. You must use calculate payment stats. But calculate payment stats is not available in 26.5. And as far as we could tell on 27.0 in the code, average days to pay is gone. And we see this conditional compilation tag, if not clean 27. We don't know what this means. So we're kind of stumped. Wait, average days to pay in V26.5, we have to magically get rid of that and add calculate payment stats in 27 without an upgrade path like that. And so what is the roadmap for this? Now, we're doing testing now. We installed the PTE in 26.5, and it successfully upgraded to 27 with our old code referencing average days of pay. So we're a little puzzled. Help me out here if anyone understands what this if not clean 27 compilation tag is and the obsolete 27.0. Does this mean average days to pay disappears in 27? Because if it does, we're not quite sure how the upgrade is going to occur and how we're going to swap out this PTE on a production environment. So, like, it's crazy. So Jeffrey says he had an issue. Turns out the hook is no longer in 26.5. It's just a warning, but should be breaking changes so that we're notified ahead of time. Exactly. Like, we need at least one minor version to make this stuff transition in a safe, smooth method. So I don't know what's going on. We got to upgrade from 26.5 to 27. Jocelyn took care of that for us. So the environment did upgrade, but now we're stumped. Like, how can it possibly upgrade if average days to pay is gone in 27? We don't know. Yeah, preprocessor directives. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, baffled. So lots of these coming down the pipe. We have other projects where we're seeing field has been deleted. It's just gone in 27. So we've warned the customers like, look, we have at least 2 customers with this issue. And this morning I noticed a bunch of our next major pipelines have warnings. So um, uh, be careful. Do not upgrade to 27 or just everything is going to break on you. Christian says we had issues with breaking changes in the base app right after BC 27 and next major pipeline didn't show this. Interesting. So yeah, 27 is going to be a world of hurt for us developers. I'm just getting the feeling they went a little too aggro with the breaking changes. They really should have issued a warning. I don't know why they dropped so much stuff cold. Tuesday, martes, number series trivia. If you search for Business Central number series, yeah, so Jeffrey says, in theory, Emma sent us an email ahead of time. There's breaking changes in 27. But breaking changes, that's fine, but we have to have an upgrade path. You can't just drop stuff out of the blue in 27. They need to help transition that at least 26.5. We have to have a minor in between the transition, period. Like, it's insane. You figured they would have learned that. So number series trivia. If you search for information on BC number series configuration, you will get an endless list of, in my humble opinion, relatively useless blog posts that say, oh, starting number, this is where you enter the starting number. Ending number, this is where you enter the ending number. Like, folks, I can read, I appreciate the blog, but no one apparently has spent 5 seconds thinking about how number series works. This is my soapbox. So I wrote this blog because I was seriously annoyed because we have received multiple support tickets. Why can't I get a next number in Business Central? Why am I getting this warning that we're running out of numbers in this number series for general payment journals or whatever this was, payment journals? Wait a minute. Someone configured your payment journal number series with 5 digits? What? And even better, not only did they configure it with 5 digits, they put an ending number on there. What were they thinking? And the answer is they were not thinking. They have 1,000 things to do during implementation and go live. They threw together a number series, loaded it in, slapped it together, whatever. Did not look at these number series, did not think about the number series. And I'm learning people do not seem to understand how number series works. And I know that sounds like a crazy statement, but hear me out. This is how number series should normally be configured, in my humble opinion. You should have, typically, in an average vanilla case, you're going to have a number series with 1 line. You should have a starting number. And that starting number, if it is transactional, should have at least 7 digits minimum. Never less than 7 digits. 8 is probably advisable in higher volume environments. You can have an alpha prefix if you want, but not my favorite. 7 digits minimum. That is it. You should not have an ending number. If you have an ending number on a single line number series, what are you doing? Why? It's an arbitrary roadblock that a customer is going to hit at some point for no good reason because there's no second line. What are you thinking? And the answer is people aren't thinking. They are simply copying what they saw in Cronus, and there's a beginning and ending number. And I know this because in our internal team, senior members of our BC implementation team were completely unaware that you could have a blank ending number field. Folks, step up your game. It doesn't matter what AI and fancy pants stuff you're doing. If you're using Copilot this and automated that, if you don't even know how to configure a single line number series, you are out of your depth, folks. And these are the support tickets I'm dealing with because someone didn't pay 5 minutes of attention to the number series load. So please, folks, improve your game and step it up. Read my cocky blog where I get on a soapbox and yell about a number series. And that is my rant. Okay, moving on. Dynamics GP 18.8 has been released. So, yes, I have multiple day jobs. I support several hundred customers on GP 18.8 still, or Dynamics GP. So I had to download, install, and configure Dynamics GP 18.8 because we have to upgrade our ISV solutions on that new version. So I'd install it, configure it, get the files, and we have to do a new build. So that is fun. And renaming projects in Azure DevOps. TLDR, do not rename a project in Azure DevOps. Ask me how I know. There are consequences. Let's just put it that way. And at this point, net place for you. Greetings from the capital of El Salvador. I'm going to guess this is one of our team in El Salvador. Is this a ERP Center of Excellence watching from San Salvador? Hola. Okay, so renaming a project in Azure DevOps, danger lies ahead. I do not recommend it if you have stuff going on. So first of all, it breaks your connection to the VS Code client. So your developer's like, why can't I sync, publish, commit, anything? That's your first problem. You can technically fix that, kind of, sort of. People claim you can, but not pretty. So you need to coordinate that. Second, after we did the renaming, it broke our pipelines. First of all, the pipeline was no longer there. We're not quite sure what happened. We're trying to reproduce and figure out what happened, but we had no pipelines on this project after renaming. We're like, whoa. We tried to recreate the pipelines using the Cosmo Alpaca pipeline YAML. Of course, it fails. Why? Because the YAML has a few references to the original project name. We try to change that name. We try to fix it. Nope. Pipeline gets created, will not run. It just falls over instantly. So I do not recommend, if you have a complex DevOps environment, and especially if you use Cosmo Alpaca, based on my limited experience, do not rename that project. So what we're doing now is we are creating a brand new project in Cosmo Alpaca, having it scaffold DevOps, scaffold the pipelines, and set up everything. And then we're just doing a code migration. It seems really dumb, but we're not quite sure what the better, if there is a better way. And it would be so elaborate to try and rename that thing that it's just not working. We had so many things break. We now know, do not do it. So we're learning in the process. Franklin is creating a new project. We had to resolve some permission issues. We're going to validate every step along the way. New pipelines get set up. He's going to do his code migration. Good learning process, a little time consuming, but good learning. So anyway, that is my lesson. Jeffrey asked, what is Cosmo Alpaca? Cosmo Alpaca is an add-on for Azure DevOps, or I believe they have one for GitHub, ALGO for GitHub. And in our case, Cosmo Alpaca facilitates our scaffolding of our DevOps project, including all the folder structures in VS Code. So it's essentially a single click. It scaffolds everything for you in VS Code. Boom. No messing around with project structure and base files configuration. It then connects to DevOps, builds our project, sets everything up, sets our permissions, sets our pull request configuration, sets up our pipelines, and then it connects to Cosmo Alpaca, which is their hosted cloud service for agents, DevOps, build, and pipeline agents, so that we do not have to run local agents. So it uses Docker and I forget the fancy version of Docker where it's a Kubernetes. No, not Kubernetes. Anyway, it sets up all the Docker instances for us to run our pipelines remotely in their cloud, and it's basically real time. You pay by the minute. So awesome, awesome solution. And we thought, oh, Cosmo Alpaca is too big. It's for fancy big teams. No, we're a team of one primary developer and one guy who pretends to kind of know what he's doing. It is a game changer for small organizations. In our case, single click, full scaffolding, full DevOps, full pipelines just saved us hours of work with every project. It's not perfect, but it is awesome for us. So, okay, page background tasks. I had a discussion with Franklin because he, in tenant admin dashboard, he's basically calling out to all the BC admin APIs, and it's multiple API calls to get all the information for a tenant or an environment. So it takes 5 seconds here, 10 seconds here. One of his calls had an issue, it takes 30 seconds. So I'm like, okay, that's not acceptable for a UI experience. So let's see if you can utilize page background tasks to kind of push that to a background task, potentially multi-thread. We'll see what we can do in order to optimize the user experience in admin dashboard. So we had a discussion with that. And then after my rant with Number Series, I got a recommendation to try the Number Series Copilot in Business Central. And I gave the frank but unpleasant feedback that it's one of the most useless things I've ever used, unfortunately. I think it was an interesting and clever idea to try as a prototype proof of concept for Copilot, but I think there was some gaps there. One, who is the customer? Who is generating new number series? And why would they need a Copilot instead of filling out, clicking 3 times, filling out 3 fields and being on their way? For creating one number series line, maybe there's a use case for this, but I'd say the time spent generating the prompt and waiting for it to come up with an answer, reviewing it, accepting it, you would have just created the number series and gone on your way. 2, it is absolutely, in my humble opinion, not adequate to generate all the number series in a company. It just can't do it. And if you see the output, it violates all of my rules here. You have to know better to tell it exactly what to do. And once again, by the time you're done crafting a comprehensive prompt telling it what to do, you could have just loaded your Excel file with your config package and solved all your problems at once, because you got to know what you're doing in order to even use the Copilot. So it's just, I'm not seeing the win there. Okay. Next up, Wednesday, miércoles. BC chat with Carrie Carosa. Awesome. This was a great conversation that took many months to arrange because we are world travelers. I was traveling, she was traveling. I was sick or dealing. Oh, I had plumbing issues, so I had to reschedule last week. We were supposed to have it, but my sink got clogged. So I finally sat down with Carrie. And if you don't know Carrie, she is an awesome lady who is a hardcore former Nav user turned BC consultant, and she is also a CPA. So she knows everything from the ground up, from end user all the way up to full hardcore BC user. And she is awesome. And I knew of her, but she and I hadn't spoken before. We didn't know each other. She stopped by our booth at DynamicsCon in Chicago, and she saw my coffee from El Salvador, from Good Beans El Salvador. She says, "Hey, I love coffee." And we started talking about coffee. And I said it's from El Salvador. And she says, "Hey, I've been to El Salvador because I do medical missions to El Salvador." I was like, whoa, we need to talk. So check out my live stream from, I think it was Wednesday. It's on Twitter, it's on my YouTube channel. We had a great conversation talking about her new business, Powerlift Solutions, where she serves as like fractional CIO or CFO, part-time CFO to customers, help them with accounting, because she knows the ins and outs of the accounting system as well. So very cool conversation. Go check it out. And yeah, great to catch up with her. And she is going to El Salvador in February for the medical mission again. And I don't know that I can make it. It'll be interesting. It's pretty intense, so I'll have to check it out. But yes, very cool to bond over El Salvador. Buen provecho. And BCV 27 new features doc, Ronald drafted that because Tanya said, "Hey, I need to review the new features so I can review that with customers." I was like, "Tanya, you need to learn how to delegate." Tanya. So I said, "Hey, I'm going to have someone take care of that." So I said, "Ronald, draft a new features doc." So Tanya thought this was super clever when someone else did this. I'm like, come on, we do this every day. Of course, the first step to trying to draft a new features guide is to ask an AI. So Ronald asked Perplexity. He did a first draft based on Perplexity. As soon as I looked, I was like, yeah, that's not going to fly. It's not good enough. So Perplexity did a first draft, but it only selected a handful of features. And I said, I know there's more features. Sure enough, Ronald went through the complete list, found a lot more features. Many of them are European or random things that aren't relevant for US customers. So he expanded it greatly, sent over that draft to Tanya. Tanya subsequently saw a video, said, "Oh, how clever. This person used ChatGPT to draft a features list." I'm like, "Tanya, we're way ahead of you." So, Ronald hand curated that document, which is really the only way to do it, as you know. GPT or Perplexity will get you started, but you really have to give it personal touch there. So we have that internally to discuss with customers and see what is relevant or what they might want. And what we found in the process is there's several features that a customer might not be interested in or understand, but several of those features we need to be up on and we need to utilize them as a consulting partner. So Jeffrey asks, we cannot disclose the internal features which are not yet publicly available. That is correct. So all MVPs are under NDA, and so sometimes, not terribly often, honestly, new features are shown to us or discussed with us, or we're asked for feedback on some new features or product roadmap or plans. We may see that and provide feedback or our thoughts, or we may test in a preview. We cannot discuss or disclose those. But honestly, the lead time we get is not significant usually. So maybe we get a few days, maybe we get one day, maybe we get a week, but it's not that big of a deal. It's not like we're getting super secret information that is life changing. So generally, I see it and I'm like, okay, I need to prepare for that. But I don't even share it with my team usually. So you're not missing out on much. Just keep an eye out for all the product announcements, and there you go. And thank you to Eric for the history lesson on the 10,000 series reports. David was trying to modify a report layout, put some simple object designer custom fields on that report, and he says, "Steve, they're all blank. It's not working. Why?" So I spent an hour with David trying to figure that out. Like, it's not you, David. Those fields are blank. So let's talk to Eric, see if it's some issue with simple object designer. So then Eric kindly jumped on a call very quick and explained to me what the deal is with this 10,000 series report. So it was 10,077, like packing slip or pick list or packing slip, I think. And he explained that this report used a temp table. And some genius back in the day said, I'm going to be clever. And I'm going to create these reports differently than all the other BC reports because I'm clever, as developers want to be. And I'm going to use a temp table, not for the whole report, just for the lines, mind you, because I'm clever. I'm a smart developer. I'm going to optimize. Well, it turns out that decision made back then prevents those reports from utilizing traditional report extensions for the lines because it uses a temp table. While that may have seemed like a genius move in the past, deviating from the standard causes problems for us in the future. So Eric explained the only way for us to customize that report is to do a PTE, fully copying the report, extending the temp table or growing the temp table to add our custom fields so that we can get those custom fields on at the line level. We cannot do those via report extension. We cannot do those via simple object designer. So those now go on a dev list, and Tanya's collecting those to see what priority those are for the customer, and we will we will need to have to do a PT for those. And also, invoice cancel procedure. This was interesting. We are doing a file import where we're creating sales invoices, and they have a requirement to do what we've called with another customer a credit and rebill. So, invoice 100 goes out, and they say, oops, we made a mistake, or there's a change, or the customer wants a different line item. So, they say, we're going to fully reverse that, and we're going to reissue a new invoice. Now, in the BCUI world, you might call this a correction or what do they call it? A correcting credit, something like that. But in the integration world, you have to say import a full credit memo, and then you have to import a replacement invoice. Well, kind of the shortcut to this is in AL or via API, you do a cancel that fully reverses the invoice, zeroes it out, and then you import the new invoice that you want. Um, there are some caveats to this, so you have to be really careful about this. It will not behave the way that you expect it, and it will not behave necessarily exactly the way that the UI occurs in BC. So, wow, I am running long. Okay, I'm gonna have to get on with this. But my developer was testing this and he found very interesting the AL procedure call to cancel or correct, I must be correct the posted sales invoice. It works flawlessly. He gets no errors. It's like, yeah, done, corrected. That invoice is gone. History, posted invoice, fully zeroed out. Go ahead and import your new invoice. Well, he noticed when he does it via the UI, he gets this warning. And it warned BC via the UI, warned you that this posted sales invoice may be partially or fully paid, and you cannot use the correct feature on this. So, this is interesting, right? Despite hours and hours of requirements and deliberation and writing up the statement of work, I miss this, which is always going to happen. And I'm like, I did not think about the timing between the import of the original invoice and the cancellation, and that we could have a partial or full payment against that posted invoice. I'm like, I know it makes sense in hindsight. I missed it in the statement of work. Fortunately, my developer caught this in manual testing via the UI. And so now we need to go back to the customer and say, how do you want to handle this? Do you want us to check for this? Do you want us to add the code for the validation? Because this is not part of the AL procedure to correct an invoice. So this is where the gotchas really come in and bite you, because you're going to miss this in the statement of work or in your design. So now we got to deal with this. So very interesting catch. And this is a design issue because the cancel or correct process does not consider this. It will correct the invoice, zero it out, even if it is partially or fully paid. A little bit scary. So that was our learning on Wednesday. Web API 2.0, love-hate relationship. Back in like 2018, 2019 or whatever, when I was at Directions NA in Vegas and the BC Web API 2.0 was rolling out, and someone named Henrik presented on this and webhooks and all this other things, I was super excited until I started using them. And you realize all the shortcomings in this. So I was recently asked by a customer and their third party they want to pull all product images out of Business Central and into this third party product ordering platform. Long story. And turns out this is the second time we've worked with this third party, strangely, through two food related customers. And they said, hey, we want to pull all images. I was like, what's the problem? There was like all this drama and conversation and complaints. I'm like, BC has an endpoint for get pictures. Like, you go to the item, you get the picture. What's the problem? He says, well, NetSuite has a single API call where you get all items and get all pictures for all items in one call. BC doesn't work like that. I'm like, okay, I don't know. So I dug into this, and he's kind of right. The BC item endpoint or the picture endpoint kind of sucks, honestly. Like, who designed this? Like, summer intern material. This is the equivalent of over normalizing your database, if you know what that means. Oh, I just got out of school and this is how you should normalize database. We need third normal form on everything, right? So what they did is they said, "Oh, we're going to have this highly structured API. We're not going to allow you to get all the pictures. You got to go items, item ID slash picture." Okay, I looked at the output. If you've ever done this, this is laughable. Like what? What was this person thinking? Slash picture gives you this payload with the width and height of the image and that it's a JPEG. And you're like, what? So it's metadata and it embeds a media edit link and a media read link, which are the same. And I'm like, what? So you find your item, then you've got to make a separate call for every single item to get the picture, but that's not really the picture. It's just kind of metadata about your picture. And then you got to get the media read link, which is a separate URI to picture slash picture content. Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, I get it. I empathize. Yeah. So the customer's now having to take all of his product photos, push them to Google Drive so this guy can load them into his third party app. And I said, yeah, maybe you can use this in the future for new products, but dumpster fire, right? So finally, if you hit this media content, picture content endpoint, you will finally get the JPEG or whatever, like over normalized, right? So, and there is your URI to actually get the picture. Items, item ID, slash picture content. You can do a get or a post apparently to update it. Okay. Yeah, Jeffrey says much better to create your own API. Yeah, and that's what he said. He says, "Can't you just give me an API where I can pull everything?" I'm like, I'm not about to do that because this customer's not about to pay for it. And this customer is completely non-technical, so he has no idea what we're talking about at all. I was like, "No, you're better off going the low-tech route because I don't want to maintain that because the customer won't even understand what's going on." Cyber woes continue in a shocking twist, right? So, if you read the news, big news is Big IP F5 was fully compromised for an extended period of time. The hackers had full reign of their internal systems, full dev systems, full source code, everything, all of their vulnerability database, their help desk, everything. So the developers had full reign for months. They only detected it. They first became aware of the breach on August 9th, but they discovered the attackers had been in their network for an extended period of time. They, of course, they attribute it to nation state because that's easy to do, but really, they are fully and completely owned. And F5 makes the big IP appliance, and I haven't caught up, I haven't kept up with what they do now, but F5 big IP was what was used back in the day, like the .com era, 2000 time frame. They were the enterprise high volume load balancing appliance. So if you saw big IP in the rack, you knew it was big time because they would get, hundreds of megabits back in the day. That was a huge deal. And they would distribute that across server farms. I don't know what they do now, but similar concept. So 23,000 customers in 170 countries using these devices. And these are edge devices. These are exposed. So they are highly vulnerable to attack. And if you followed me on the VPN appliance and Fortinet and Cisco and SonicWall, these guys are in a world of hurt over the next year. Really, really bad. Um, Hackers exploit Cisco SNMP flaw to deploy rootkit on switches. And well, this relates to an older series that I'm assuming is deprecated, but basically this seems to be the new trend where the attackers discover how to exploit the device, not to get through your firewall or bypass your restrictions on the network level. They figure out how to install a low level rootkit on the appliance. This means that even after you reboot the device, Even if you reset the device, even if you reinstall firmware, the device is fully and continuously and perpetually compromised. Literally, the only solution to a potentially compromised device is to unplug it, ship it back to the manufacturer, and ask for a replacement. Literally, that's what you have to do. I've had to do this with a SonicWall device, and that is a new routine for these networking vendors where, okay, we have a 0 day in this, just unplug it, ship it back to us, we'll RMA, send you a new unit, because SonicWall, Fortinet, and others know that the rootkit could have been installed. They have no way to detect it. They have no way to mitigate it. There is no end user way to deal with this issue. Serious, serious issue. So next up, fake LastPass Bitwarden breach alerts lead to PC hijack. So this is a phishing campaign saying, hey, we've improved security on LastPass. Click here and upgrade your LastPass configuration. You enter your master password or whatever it does, and you've been compromised. I don't use LastPass. I don't recommend using LastPass. If you're using LastPass, I highly recommend moving to a better password manager. But that's just my humble opinion. Bitwarden should be okay. 1Password, in my humble opinion, is technically on paper the best option if you're okay with its features. But there's several other good ones. But 1Password has the double encryption key, so that's why I think it works well. Okay, upcoming events. Próximos eventos. Summit MA is coming up next week in just 3 days, 20th through 23rd in Orlando, Florida. Directions EMEA follows in November 4th through 6th in Poland. Directionsforpartners.com. All the cool kids will be there, which is why I will not be at either of those events. If you will be in Orlando, it is not quite too late to register for the BC Bash Tuesday, October 21st at 9 p.m. at the Cuba Libre restaurant. You must register. So go to stevendo.link/BCBash2025 or scan the QR code to register on the Eventbrite site. And manufactured urgency. Let's take a step back, slow down, Steve, calm down, and manufactured urgency. This is a really cool concept I saw the other night. Random Twitter post that ended up in my feed. If you want to avoid being manipulated, learn to recognize when urgency is being used as a lever. The more you can slow things down, the less control you cede to whoever is trying to rush you. And I know this is an age-old sales tactic and negotiating tactic, and it's probably a tactic of war and conflict and manipulation and psychology. And I'm sure there are other names for it. And I was like, I get it. But when I saw this, it clicked. I was like, he just put it so succinctly. And so he says, I call it urgency lever theory. Whenever someone tries to rush you, they're pulling a lever designed to bypass your reasoning. They're manipulating you. Notice how often urgency is manufactured. Just brilliant reminder of this thing that is being done in order to manipulate people. And so I shared this with a few friends. It's fantastic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just finally clicked. And now it's kind of one of these mental models where hopefully I notice it more. And the age old phrase that I've heard is urgency, urgent, something like urgency on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part or something like that. And so people say, oh, you need to help me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that sounds like a you problem. And just because you're putting out a fire does not mean I'm the fireman that needs to come to your rescue. So great, great concept to remember when you see manufactured urgency or what I'll call manipulative urgency. where someone, whether intentional, unintentional, or they think it's urgent, no, it's only urgent for you, not for me, right? Differentiate those two things. And lo and behold, yesterday afternoon, I got these two emails. Urgent, all caps, exclamation point in red with the urgent email. Yes, thank you, Ted. Lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. That is the quote. One of my favorite quotes. Now, that it kind of implies the urgency situation, but this is a great example. So this person blasted out these emails. I just happened to get two of them. And that's how I was able to identify the manufactured and manipulative urgency in this person's emails. Don't do this, folks. This is stupid, it's sloppy, it's disrespectful, it's manipulative. So this person sends out these emails, blasts them out to hundreds of ISV contacts for hundreds of her customers because she's late or whatever. She says urgent. It's like, no. And this was shortly after I read this tweet. Urgent, quote. Wait, you just want a quote. Okay, I'll get to it. Urgent. This is an urgent matter in the email. And I just I just laughed at this and I just stared at this like, I'm not going to respond to this email today just because she did this. It's going to sit in my inbox and she can just wait. And then I had to forward these over to my colleague who deals with these quotes. When I forwarded it over, I stripped out the word urgent. I removed her language about how urgent and important this was. I completely sanitized the email for my colleague because I did not want to share this with them and impose this manipulative urgency on them. So I removed any sense of urgency, removed the exclamation point. I even edited the forwarded subject line in their original email and just passed it along as an average run-of-the-mill quote request. This person is being obnoxious by doing that, right? And in the context of that tweet, yeah. Anyway, Thursday, jueves, MCP, all the things, and I see my production intern is fired for the 45th time. I swear, will that guy ever do his job? Okay, MCP, all the things. If you are not MCPing all the things, are you even a BC developer? I mean, really? You should hang your head in shame. If you are not doing AI, AL development, if you are not having an LLM do your BC documentation, if you are not having an AI scan all your Business Central data and procedures and processes, and if you're not using an agent for your DevOps, I mean, come on, where's your MCP, bro? And application insights, come on, man. KQL is so old school. I've got an agent and an MCP doing all that for me. So here's the twist. BC Telemetry Buddy. This was Waldo in his free time, just typing away. He was playing around and apparently he was in VS Code developing something and he had the need to review BC Telemetry. And he's like, God, I hate having to go to App Insights or the report and doing KQL queries and finding out what the issue is. And I got to go back to my code in VS Code and figure out how to fix this and analyze this. So he vibe coded apparently, an MCP for application insights so that he could prompt VS Code Copilot to say, hey, go check out this issue in App Insights, check out the telemetry and tell me what's going on there in the context, potentially, of my code or this application or this feature, this procedure, whatever. If you understand what those words meant, like the gears are absolutely spinning to capacity. So Waldo is in VS Code, in his project, in his feature, in his procedure, in his AL code, and he can prompt an MCP or tell Copilot to talk to this MCP to go look at telemetry in the context of his application, procedure, code, whatever. Crazy. So he just casually whipped up this MCP server, shared it with some people, and we're like, wait, what? And then he's like, oh, that's interesting. Let me whip together this tiny little VS Code extension and publish it to the world. And it is called BC Telemetry Buddy. And within VS Code, using natural language with GitHub Copilot, you can query Business Central telemetry. Boom. You don't need to open a browser. You don't need to open the Power BI report. You don't need to do a KQL query off over here. All there in VS Code via an MCP server. If you extrapolate this, think about this. AI to vibe code your requirements, AI to take your requirements and vibe code your design, AI to take your design and do what is it called? A PRD, to do wireframes, to submit all of that via AI into, say, a cursor prompt or a copilot prompt, to vibe code your application, to use multiple agents to do architecture, integration, automated testing, pipelines, you name it, DevOps MCPs, and then get this. You have this MCP and an agent call your App Insights telemetry to see what bugs exist or optimizations or errors or performance issues, to then reiterate over the code to enhance it. It's full closed loop, full cycle, MCP, all the things. My brain is absolutely melting right now. So, how do you wrap your brain around what the heck is going on here? Well, I got a good tip from my bud, Jeremy, who is freakishly smart. If you didn't know that, he's scary smart, Jeremy. If you're listening, Jeremy, you're a little too smart. You're kind of like, you may need to dial it down for us mortals, because check out this podcast by the awesome Chris and Brad, episode 434 of Dynamics Corner, Business Central Newbies, Magic, and AI United, where they interview Jeremy Viska, and he talks about his Newbiemancy project and what he's done. Absolutely phenomenal entry level, introductory, accessible explanation of all of this stuff, AI, MCP, agents, and how this all comes together. Really, like, I'm listening to this morning, like literally the meme, your head is exploding. Go check it out. Model Context Protocol, Chad. Yes. Excellent, very, very accessible conversation. Even if you're not doing BC, just listen to the discussion and how Jeremy explains an AI, MCP, agent, instruction set, and how you orchestrate these things and what is really going on here. Holy cow, he has great metaphors, great explanation, phenomenal discussion. I'm still finishing up, but highly motivational, and I'm going to be busy this weekend. So on newbiemancy.com, he has this project that he released a couple weeks ago, BC Code Intelligence. And this is where he sews all this stuff together in this insane project where he has like 14 agents with specialized skills and abilities. And that'll make sense if you listen to the podcast. And it brings in the different agents in order to do the work that needs to be done. And holy cow. And Chad, I am so mortal. I am just like staring at this like, this is Mount Everest. How do I even take the first step? And really, it's really the first step. Once you get past the first step, then you're like, oh, okay. And then you take a second step. You're like, oh. And then you start moving. And in El Salvador, the phrase is paso a paso. Little by little, step by step, you have to take the first step. Just start by listening to this podcast, episode 434 of Dynamics Corner. Listen to Jeremy's explanation. At least you'll know what words are flying around. You don't need to be some OpenAI super guru expert, but so I'm going to try to use the BC Code Intelligence to go vibe code all the things. And there are a couple projects I need to do. I need to learn about this. I want to do some MCPs of stuff and try to figure this out. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so rusty on coding. I need to vibe code an MCP. I need to vibe code an Azure function. it's going to be a train wreck. It's going to be a dumpster fire, a mess. But hey, if I iterate 2,000 times and pay $1,000 in AI tokens, maybe I'll figure this out. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this out. And Ted, yes, Jeremy is amazingly humble, but just listen to how eloquently he explains this. It's like, oh my God, it crazy, mind melting moment. Wow, that was alliterative. Okay, so check it out. Like, you gotta get started. Otherwise, I feel I'm so behind, but really just listen to the discussion and start to learn the words. Okay, 2026 events already on tap. Partner in Vibe Conference 28th through 30th in South Padre Island, Texas. I'm told it is a beautiful kind of beach destination. The weather better be great, Molly and Liz. I'm counting on it because I want to be out there sunning and funning on the beach, and I want to watch a rocket launch. That is my personal request. Please coordinate with SpaceX. I want to watch a rocket launch from South Padre Island. Partner in IO, head on over. More information coming up. And I see I have an incorrect URL. Directions NA is in April 27th through 29th in Orlando. And I believe that is directions, if I can type, directionsna.com, I think. And DynamicsCon, May 12th through 15th, that is in Las Vegas, dynamicscon.com. And I believe requests for proposals are not yet open for that, coming soon, though. Be on the lookout. Dynamics Minds is May 25th through 27th in Slovenia. Okay, I am running long. Partner in Vibe Conference, partnerin.io/vibe, Wednesday, January 28th through Friday the 30th, South Padre Island, Courtyard Marriott. Go to sessionize.com/vibe if you want to submit a session for this Microsoft Partner Conference. And this is more a strategic, educational, collaborative conference for Microsoft partners to learn, to share strategies, techniques, what's worked, how to grow, how to expand, how to accelerate, how to run a practice, things like that. That's my interpretation. This is not how to use BC Web APIs. This is not AL programming. This is not CRM strategies or new features, right? So the submissions that I've submitted so far, excuse me, scaling with nearshore talent, building a consulting and support services practice from scratch. As you may know, I have a little bit of experience with this. I am by no means an expert, but I've done it the hard way. So I might have a few lessons to share. The second one is a reprise of a session I did at Directions NA, avoiding a $1 million lawsuit, aim for a higher standard of project management. And this is based off of a real world lawsuit that destroyed a Dynamics partner and put them out of business. And it is also based on a conversation of a multi-million dollar failed F&O implementation that led to a lawsuit. And also I'm in conversation with a partner who was sued out of the blue after a management change at a customer. And it's like, what did I do? We don't care. Here's your lawsuit, right? So this does happen. And even if you think you are prepared for it, I can guarantee you are absolutely not prepared for the lawsuit. And anyone who thinks they are, you are in for a world of hurt if you are not doing some very basic things to at least have a posture to deal with this situation. Building an ERP software development practice, technical debt, processes, discipline, and AI. I know others are submitting things like this around the dev cycle and AI, but this is my take on it. So that's what I'll be submitting. Friday, Viernes, Santa's elves go toy shopping. And so my team is in El Salvador right now, driving to San Salvador. I believe they are there already. And this is the ERP Center of Excellence team and they are heading into San Salvador to shop for our El Coyolar Christmas Festival. And this is the annual festival where we host over 150 children from the El Coyolar Canton, give them their, is what we might euphemistically call a disadvantaged community, tin shacks, dirt floors, wood on the ground to cook over fires. And so we have a nice Christmas festival. We're going to have toys, a clown, a Santa, bouncy house, trampoline, prizes, music, um, popcorn, snacks, lots of fun. So they are heading into San Salvador to go to China Depot and other stores to go toy shopping. So we have hundreds of dollars of toys to buy for the kids. So that's what they are doing right now, those slackers. I wish I was there actually. And I will be doing file import testing and creating a user guide for our new PTE today. And I will be testing SonicWall CSE self-hosted access tier. And if you are using VPNs globally to deal with conditional access in Entra for your Business Central customers, you can do that. But personally, I do recommend getting a private corporate overlay network or private VPN that eliminates commercial VPN services and has your employees using a controlled VPN overlay network that allows them to route traffic through your US corporate offices. And I do not recommend using a traditional VPN appliance in your corporate network with an open port. And Ted and I can explain why. If you have an open port and a VPN on your corporate network, oh boy, you are just begging for a very, very bad day. So the product I am using is called SonicWall Cloud Secure Edge, and that is their WireGuard protocol, network overlay, cloud VPN, if you will, in order to give my global team a single VPN that does endpoint protection, minimize or does some risk mitigation for cybersecurity, and allows us to control the traffic that goes to all of our customer environments. And I will of course be checking out Jeremy's BC Code Intelligence project, and that is in my Friday. Okay. And more on BC Code Intelligence. Here's a list of the specialists, and I believe these would be the agents, which each have their instruction set and can call different MCPs. So I'm going to be learning about that hopefully today and this weekend. And what can it do? Code optimization, architecture review, security audience, testing strategy, security audits, integration design, BC version upgrade, best practices, you name it. Lastly, Summit NA Roadshows, dynamicscommunities.com, December 9th and December 11th in Houston and Fort Lauderdale. Double check those dates before signing up. And excellence updates. Jocelyn is jamming, man, on report layouts and financial reports. David is being punished by Tanya's simple object designer antics and crazy report layout requests. Ronald did the BCV 27 new feature documentation for our internal review, and he continues, of course, to become the master, the Jedi of Macorma Supercheck and Overflow Remittance. Franklin, as I mentioned, did his first pull request on the Tenant Admin Dashboard Beta 1, which we need to fix our DevOps mess and then get that deployment for internal testing. Fatima is doing awesome on her PMI PMP training, leading to her certification journey to become our dedicated internal full-time PMP project manager. I will welcome that day and I will pop some champagne, even if I have to learn Spanish so that she can tell me what to do. And she is our El Coyolar Christmas Festival Planning Project Manager. So she's doing an awesome job. She arranged the microbus to take the team to San Salvador for toy shopping. And Q&A. How's it going? What are you learning? If I did not give you enough to learn, I am not doing my job. So get out there, learn about, oh my gosh, learn about number series. Please, please learn how to use number series properly. And then learn about MCPs and agents and AI, all the things. And our Q&A tidbit of the week. If you have ever seen this, this is a trope. This is the stereotypical cool multi-time zone, spaceship looking, fancy lobby, control center, launch control clock setup. And I am all for this type of shtick because in our global control center, our situation center, whatever it's called, in Berlin, El Salvador, we are going to have all the clocks. We are starting with 6 clocks on the wall so that we can monitor all the time zones in our SOC, in our NOC, in our service management center. Greetings from Philippines. That's where you're at. So I have 6 clocks on tap to be imported into El Salvador in December, and we are going to start the Network Operations Center, the Security Operations Center, the Business Central Support Monitoring Center. The clocks are phase 1, and our Global Dashboard and Monitoring Center is phase 2. So that's what's going on in the Q&A department. And with that, this has been over 1 hour and 20 minutes of me rambling. So, que tengas un buen fin de semana. Go learn something, enjoy your weekend, and learn how to MCP all the things. Adios, nos vemos. Take it easy.